Dogs forwards fire in an instant classic. A power surge gets Port over the line and the race for the top 8 begins to heat up. Hello and welcome to The Round So Far, brought to you by Amy. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Kane Corns. Kane will start at Giants Stadium tonight, where the Bulldogs got over the line by 20 points in a classic, the highest scoring game of the season.
Extraordinary game of footy, wasn't it? So we're going to show you some highlights of the Western Bulldogs forwards that you mentioned. That man, Waitman, he kicked 5 first half goals before he had an issue with his elbow, which we'll get to, but he was just up and his energy was there. He's really good in the air, we know that, and he was able to finish. And then Aaron Norton as well, so he also kicked 5 goals, so 10 between these two Western Bulldogs forwards. He took 4 contested marks. I thought the timing of his lead today was much better, and then he's always been able to do this. He can always do what not a lot of players in the competition can do, and that's take a big pack mark inside 50. So positive signs for the way that their forward line functioned. Thought a couple of their midfielders were outstanding as well. McRae was huge. He had 37 and 9 tackles. And Marcus Bontempelli back to form. I think he's just been going, whether that's injury related or not. He was moving from contest to contest. He had 28 disposals and 9 score involvements, kicked a goal. And I thought we saw the best of Bontempelli tonight. He
looked awesome. The Giants had a couple of stars as well. None better than Toby Greene. He is our Saturday star, thanks to Taylor Made. Have a look at some of these stats. 21 disposals, 7 goals, 3 goal assists and 14 scoring involvements.
Freakish, wasn't it? It was a career best night for him when you think of some of the games he's played in and some of the big days and nights that he has had. This is extraordinary. 14 score involvements, you said. That would have to be a record, I would think, for the year. Certainly up there, but and his touch going inside 50, so he's unselfish, he plays with aggression, he's clearly the leader of this football club, and if he's not the standalone captain next year, something's wrong. But the depth of that kick and the power that he's able to get off that, and the timing of it to Hogan, who was also good with 3 goals, and right till the end he was giving it his all. You can see there with a couple of minutes to go, he goes back and slots his 7th, so what a performance. If he keeps this up for the second half of the year, we'll have a say in the All-Australian team, I reckon.
It was an incredible night for him. He'll go home with some golf balls and a hat, thanks to Taylor Made. I want to touch on the Dogs forward line just one more time, because they played with Aaron Norton, who kicked 5, Cody Waitman, who kicked 5 in the first half tonight. They also had Jamara and Josh Shackey in the team. Josh Bruce comes back from an ACL injury through the VFL. He had a great night on Friday night in the VFL. He kicked 3 goals. What do they do going forward?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's going to be picked on form, isn't it? Ugle Hagen gives them something that I like. Like, he didn't have a massive night tonight, but he does have some ground level ability and some agility. Kicked a goal, set up a couple. He does have a nice field kick as well, but clearly Bruce will pick himself when he's ready. Now, I don't know when that will be. You would think Shackey is the vulnerable one out of that lot, but Josh Shackey does give versatility because he can go back and he goes into the ruck as well, which he did sporadically tonight. So all of a sudden, their forward line's been an issue from their key position prospects. It's looking a lot better for the back half of the year, and they've won 4 out of their last 5, as you said. So they're in good form, the Dogs.
There's a lot going on in the top 8, and the result at the Adelaide Oval on Saturday had a lot to do with that. Port Adelaide beating Sydney. They kicked 6 straight goals and had 11 straight inside 50s to start the second half. Yeah,
it was 15 minutes of power. It was just awesome football. You can see Rosie there, like his ability to drive forward with his legs, and that set up the first goal of the third quarter. Marshall was enormous. 4 goals again. He's kicked 27 goals for the year, Todd Marshall, having an absolute breakout season. Ken Hinkley lauded his performance after the game, and they just went bang, bang, bang. Sydney could not get the ball in their forward half. The pressure from Port Adelaide was outstanding. Dump kick back to Burton, drifting up and defending high off the ground. But it was that to me. Like, that's Charlie Dixon laying big tackles. Some of the numbers that we've seen, plus 21 in tackles. They were, inside 50s were just dominant, as we mentioned. So, yeah, really statement performance from a Port Adelaide group who were teetering on the edge of lose that, season over.
Yeah.
So the pressure to come in with a bit of adversity, I thought it was a really strong performance, their best of the year.
They've won 6 of their last 8 now after losing their first 5 straight. Bit of a worrying pattern now for the Swans. This is their last 4 games. We mentioned they conceded 7 straight on either side of half-time to end this one, but it was 6 straight against the Blues, 7 straight against the Tigers, 5 straight against the Demons, and now 7 straight again against the Power. You can't win games playing football like this.
No, and so of the contenders, the difference between their best and worst football, I think the Golf is the biggest out of any of the teams up the top end of the ladder. So to concede goals like that, like they did the 6 that we mentioned, then game over in an instant, is a real worry. So once again, their position with St Kilda and a couple of others with how tight it is at risk in the top 8. And I know you wanted to highlight one of the discipline areas of one of their players today.
Not a happy return to the Adelaide Oval for Pete Laddams, of course, traded from Port Adelaide to Sydney over the off-season. So he gives away this free kick, which results in a goal, and then just minutes later has a downfield free kick, which results in another goal. And a strike on Ollie Wines as well, which you'd have to think behind the play, that's intentional. So he'll get at least a week, I'd have thought, suspension for that.
Has to get a week. So that cost 2 goals, as you mentioned. We'll have another look at this in slow-mo. Watch the right punch to the stomach of Ollie Wines, clearly not expecting that on the ground. And then he's dragged, like you rarely see a player genuinely dragged. I'll be really surprised if he comes back in even after that suspension that he will cop. And 1 week, we would think, with the incident will eventuate for him, but just a couple of brain phase. Now, they traded him away when he was in contract, Port Adelaide, because of those sort of issues that he had in and around the club, so they'd be feeling justified with that decision tonight.
A couple of injuries marred the win for Port Adelaide. Zach Butters going down with a knee problem, and Bryn Teakle, just 17 days after he was drafted, had a great start, but then hurt his shoulder or his collarbone late in the game?
Yeah, collarbone, snapped his collarbone. So this is the one, though. This is the one that really hurts. 4 to 6 weeks for Zach Butters with a medial knee injury, and he hasn't been able to have any continuity with his football. He gets injured. And then Teakle was awesome. Like, he only played a quarter and a bit, as you're seeing there, and that's the hit on McInerney. And then you see all of a sudden he's on the bench with a snapped collarbone. So he was only picked up 17 days ago.
Yeah.
Came in, took a really strong contested mark, competed really well in the centre bounce. So, look, the positive is he's got a future, and they may have found the backup to Scott Lycett. But how heartbreaking and bittersweet to play in a win like that, but to get injured in your first game. 3
mid-season draftees making their debut this round. Sam Durden, of course, for Carlton, who hurt his knee. He'll miss the next month as well. And Massimo D'Ambrosio, who was awesome for Essendon on Friday night. We'll get to that soon. We'll get to our Amy Clangers now. We want to start at the Adelaide Oval. Have a look at this, Kane. This is rather incredible. So the ball's gone out of bounds. The boundary umpire takes...
Good hands.
A great mark.
Really good hands. Look at that.
He stuffs up the easy part, the throw to his teammate, and just absolutely overcooks.
Missed him by 5 metres, but really impressive hands there from the boundary umpire. I like this. And this is Andrew Gaff. We've seen some strange things being signed this year. I've seen some pies being signed, but this is the muffin, and he chucks it back up. And good hands by that young man who was thrilled.
Now, this is the accidental goal of the year. Harry Jones, out of bounds, so it doesn't count. Kicks an incredible goal, but he even apologises to his teammate because he was clearly trying to centre it, and somehow it's gone through. It's actually a shame that didn't count.
Look at the float on this ball. That is a genuine floater. That's actually hard to do. And then this is outstanding work from the trainer just to jump out the way. I think she may have been mid-mouthful as well, certainly consuming some sort of food and got out of the way exceptionally well. And this bloke should be coaching.
He should be.
He's got the whiteboard and just moving some magnets around in the crowd there at Marvel Stadium on Friday night. So get that man a coaching gig, please.
Maybe in Brett Ratton's coaching box, because St Kilda left themselves with too much to do. They kicked the first 5 goals of the second half to draw level. I love the response from Essendon, though, because you thought, oh, here we go again for the Bombers. They're going to get run over the top of. But they came out, put a foot in the ground and went on and win this game.
So this is the response. This is the 6 goals they kicked after conceding 5. And I was with you because Marshall and Ryder kicked a couple of goals and there was emotion from St Kilda, and then there was a 50-metre penalty which we'll get to against Guelph, and you thought, oh no, same old for the Bombers. They're going to squander a 28-point half-time lead. But this is the response. And what I thought about this, so what stood out was the pressure and the intensity around the footy, which we'll touch on in a moment. But this was the Essendon that we hope to see. Draper was awesome, not massive numbers, but kicked a couple of goals and seemed to compete really well and was involved in a lot of scoring opportunities. And there's Guelph kicking that one just before the 3/4 time siren for the Bombers to wrestle back control. But a really strong performance offensively and defensively. I wonder, though, it's almost a slap in the face to Bombers fans. That's the football you're capable of. Where's it been for 13 weeks?
Yeah.
That's the frustration that must be there for Essendon fans after witnessing a really good performance on Friday night.
We smashed them for their inability to defend from D50 last week, and rightfully so, but they got it right this time. What did they do right?
Yeah, just only conceded the 7 points from D50. Worst team take out West Coast and North Melbourne at defending transition. So look at the frontal pressure. This is to start the game. McGrath comes hard. Stringer, he was poor last week. Comes hard, doesn't get a stat for that, but causes the turnover with their forward pressure, and then Jones kicks that snap the first goal of the game. And this happened repeatedly. Like, look at St Kilda being forced to go backwards. Perkins gets the hand in there. That's a front half turnover. Easiest way to score from football these days is to turn the footy over in your front half. And just look at the pressure across the board. It's not one player. The front, here comes Ham. He comes from the front, and then you turn the footy over in your front half. Everyone else is offside. The St Kilda defenders lose their man. Easy mark inside 50 to Martin. So that was the difference for me, was that wave of frontal pressure that came, and St Kilda at times weren't able to cope with that.
It's a loss that could have big ramifications for the Saints. 4 sides on 8 and 5 now. I want you to look at their next run of games, because Richmond, Sydney, St Kilda and Collingwood make up 3 of the top 4 spots.
Yeah, you'd be comfortable if you're Richmond there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
In a couple of games at the MCG where they play so well. Sydney, vulnerable. The draw is reasonably solid. Like some sides in there around the same. And next week against St Kilda is huge. And the same goes for the Saints, that one against the Swans at the SCG. They look vulnerable to me, St Kilda. Blues, Dockers and Bulldogs, that's tricky. And then we'll see if Collingwood can make a run at it. Of course, there's 3 really winnable games, potentially 4 in that next month for Collingwood. But what a fascinating year it is. Terrific season of footy. I can't remember a season that has been so close, where any team can rock up and beat anyone. And the race for the 8, you're going to be a really good side if you make the 8 this year.
Could be a pivotal weekend for both Sydney and St Kilda losing those games. Now, Kane, anyone who follows your Twitter account would know your thoughts on the 10-metre protected zone rule. Matt Guelphy gave away this last night. What can we change to fix this?
All right, I can solve it. It's the worst rule, and it's impossible for players. So watch Sinclair there in the protected zone trying to get a free kick. Now, players have exploited this. So we'll get another look at this. Guelphy is with his man and unfortunately gets caught on the wrong side. And then he tries to get out. He tries to do the right thing and he's pinged. Big goal, big moment in the game. If your opponent is in the 10-metre protected area, you shouldn't be pinged for you being in there as well. You should actually be allowed to go and stop him from getting a handball receive, as long as you automatically make your way out when your opponent goes to the other side. So umpire just says, everyone out, get out of the 10-metre protected zone. If you respond to that and you clear out like Guelphy did, can't be a 50. It's a ridiculous rule, and the penalty for it is too severe, and that was the case on Friday night. How frustrating for the players with how difficult it is and what they're expected to do.
We'll head to Thursday night footy now, where Richmond beat Carlton. This match swung on a goal review, a pretty contentious one. Certainly if you're Michael Voss, you thought it was a contentious one. Now, if Jack News kicks this and it stands, the margin is 3 points.
If you're in the booth, is that conclusive to you?
I thought it was.
Really? I didn't see enough to, if it's signalled a goal, wasn't conclusive. Now, this is the next kick-in, where Richmond, nothing special about it. Nate just shoves it on the boot. We're going to see some Shea Bolton magic here, and how clean he is at ground level. He is the best player at picking the ball up below his knees in the competition, and then Rioli centres it to Edwards, and what a momentum swing with 9 minutes to go in the last quarter.
So it could have been 3 points. Instead, the margin drifts out to 14 points. Now, have a look at the next 5 minutes of football. Richmond had the next 8 inside 50s. They had the next 4 scoring shots. They had the next 3 clearances. It just seemed like it sucked all of the momentum out of Carlton's game. It would have been 4 on the trot. Instead, Richmond re-grasped complete control over this contest.
You're right. I just thought Richmond were the better side, though. I mean, they jumped out. They kicked the first 6 of the game. It's always going to be really difficult for Carlton to come back after conceding the first 6 of the game. They did so much work, and I've admired their resilience this year and the way they've never given in like Carlton teams have in the past. So they got back in it, but the effort to do that was too much for them, and eventually Richmond overwhelmed them. They've now won 6 out of their last 7. And they're going to be a dangerous proposition should their squad stay healthy.
Could potentially be a top 4 side. Now, if you cast your mind back about 3 months ago, we smashed Richmond's midfield after their round 1 loss to Carlton. They lost the last 17 straight clearances in that game. They won the clearance count by 14.
This was where it was done. Start of the second quarter, they kicked 3 stoppage goals. We're going to show them here for you. And once again, there's nothing pretty about this. They were just harder and tougher, and they beat up Carlton around the stoppage. Now, when you are as vulnerable as what Carlton are with the injuries behind the ball and their key defenders out, this is all they had to do. They really just had to break even around the stoppages. They did better than that, and as we're seeing here, this is still the start of that second quarter and the 3 stoppage goals that they kicked, which was almost a difference. Now, they just pressured the life out of Carlton when they got it. Prestia there, he had 13 clearances, and then you get some clean entries, you get a contest from your forwards, and you get goals like that from smart players like Revolt. So I heard Damien Hardwick speak after the game. He said they looked at that round one performance.
Yep.
They admitted they let themselves down. Andrew McWalter is the midfield coach. They went to work on that. They just needed to break even. They did better than that, and that was the difference in the game.
Charlie Curnow kept to 1 goal. It was only the 3rd time this season he's been kept to fewer than 2 goals in a game. 2 of them have been against Richmond. I reckon Dylan Grimes played him about as well as anyone I've seen this season.
So he won't get 3 Brownlow votes. Prestia will, but he should be in the Brownlow votes. But he won't be because the umpires won't vote for a defender. But I hope he's in the coaches' votes, and I hope he gets some recognition for this performance to completely nullify, really, the Coleman medalist at the moment, certainly the leader. He did it one-on-one. When the ball was there, he went and marked it. Now, the conditions helped, and the pressure around the footy, which I referenced before with Richmond's midfield, and even when Carlton did win it, it was a lot of that sort of stuff from Sard, high, slow, messy balls that Grimes was able to clean up. But yeah, what a player, over 200 games now, and skipper of the club for a reason.
Shea Bolton, late in the game, showed the footy to Sam Docherty. It's drawn a lot of criticism, particularly internally at Richmond. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I didn't love it. I thought, I couldn't be any stronger than what Damien Hardwick was, though. Like, he was as strong as we've seen any coach on a player. It's not us. He'd be regretful. We're disappointed. It's not a great look, said Damien Hardwick. I just like that coaching. Like, at this stage of the year, you don't want the group to get ahead of themselves. They've won 6 out of their last 7. They've clearly got massive resumes, a lot of those Richmond players. So for the coach just to pull his player back into line, I like that. I think it's good coaching.
Do you not think you should be able to show a little bit of personality? I liked it.
Yeah.
I reckon you make a team up of different personalities. I kind of like that he's able to be who himself. He plays with that flair. He's allowed to. I just think he should be allowed to do that.
I just don't know what there is to gain. I mean, it's not as if more Richmond fans are going to come through the gates. They're going to come through the gates anyway if they're winning. So I just think you've got more to lose than to gain with something like that. Particularly, with such a well-respected player like Docherty as well. To do that in his face, I just thought... And with 20-odd minutes to go, it's just a risk that can come back to get you.
He would have had his heart in his mouth when Jack Newnes almost kicked that goal. We'll head to Optus Stadium now, where Geelong just got over the line against West Coast. It wasn't pretty, but they did it for Tom Hawkins. Kicked 700th goal. Yep. He's just the 26th player in AFL, VFL history.
He's incredible. And how many's he given off as well? So he's kicked 700, but I reckon there's... probably another 300 that he's given off throughout the course of his career. So, just love the way he goes about it, his temperament, the leader that he's been. And he's going to be really important. Like, Curnow and Mackay, Hawkins and Cameron, which one would you take in terms of the forward duo? It's a toss of the coin. I'd probably take these two. And that was on display. Not a lot to write home about this performance from the Cats, but a long trip. And you think that West Coast, with the group that they've got back, and now that they've actually played some footy and they're getting match conditioned, they might trouble a couple of sides in the back half of the year. But hats off to Tom Hawkins, he's incredible. That
win moves Geelong into the top 4. They've got an incredible record of making the top 4. Have a look at this.
It's freakish.
If they make top 4 this year, it's 13 times in the last 6 years. Now, of course, the next question is, if you make the top 4 13 times in 16 years, should you have more than 3 flags?
Probably, but you just want, as a supporter, the opportunity to be there on prelim final week, and that's basically what they do. I've written them off for probably 6 out of those years that are on the table there, and they continually surprise me. They're a lock for top 4. The next 4, they got Richmond, North Melbourne, Melbourne, Carlton, but then they've got a lot of those games at home. So, look, they will finish top 4, and they'll put themselves in a position to do that again. Whether they're good enough remains to be seen, but you've got to get there to give yourself a shot.
It's pretty incredible. Jeremy McGovern can't take a trick at the moment. He's gone to hospital with a rib injury. It kind of sums up their season. They get 4 premiership players back and then they lose one straight away.
Yeah, well, he goes off the ground a lot, doesn't he? Now, this looks nasty. And I think Adam Simpson spoke after the game and says he often plays sore and he's got a high pain threshold. So for him to go off, something must be amiss there, clearly. So hopefully he's okay. But in the last 3 or 4 seasons, he hasn't been able to have a good run at it either.
We'll head to the rest of the round now. Only the one game on the Sunday, Gold Coast versus Adelaide. This is crucial for the Suns if they want to keep their finals ambitions alive.
It is. It's like one of those danger games, isn't it? Where Adelaide, they make you earn it. They're a good, honest side. They're full of a lot of battlers that scrap and fight. They're good at contested footy. But if Gold Coast come and play the way that they've been playing with their system the last 4 weeks, you wouldn't think Adelaide have a shot.
Full complement of games next week, Kane. 9 to go in the season. Can't wait to see how it pans out.